Y is in the right direction. We're just not even hitting, huh? What is going on? It's frozen. It's because I didn't do this properly. Yeah, alright, let's throw that sack all the way. Still not hitting. What? Ah, graphics are all fucked now. Normal to the collision is negative 1. Alright, perpendicular. I'll start this. Well, this is just all sorts of screwed up. What the fuck? Just have to print out all the things just to figure out why the hell this test is giving us garbage data back. Well, some of this development's just slow. You just gotta crunch the numbers. And physics stuff usually is the slowest because it's something you can't do. If you do it wrong, nothing else in the game is going to work because your physics needs to be good. It needs to actually be like reasonable. Starting position is such. Movement direction is to the right. Impact normal is -1. Alright, so that is wrong. Hey Lucas, because we're not making Gears of War, basically. The movement stuff is like we need to move ourselves. Like a lot of those things can come out of the box and work for a lot of games, but we're not. They don't have like their 2D stuff just doesn't really exist there. Like their paper 2D stuff is even just like deprecated as all hell. They're not even really working on it. So, and we want our movement to work in a very specific way. Like we need to be able to do all sorts of stuff. So I mean, it's not that we're not doing basically what their movement does. It's just when we're getting there. It's not a big deal. It's just it's supposed to take a long time to get all this crap to work. So I'm not worried about taking a while on movement. Movement is what the game is all about. So that's just how it is. And the other thing, Pixel Twitch, about the other one is I don't really like using a bunch of code that's kind of just off the shelf. It can be difficult in case you want to change something to know where to start. So even though it's sometimes a greater ramp up time to write your own stuff, in the long run, sometimes if like you need to go in there and noodle around, you can. If that makes sense, you kind of understand what to do. So that's another small bit. It's Where did my mouse go? There it is. Alright. Movement direction is this. Impact normal is this. Did not hit anything with the second pass. Is that always true? So it's like we're getting that same issue as we had yesterday, where we are getting a small issue with our collision when we're sweeping our object, basically. And it's not happening when we like nudge ourselves up a small bit. So let me. Which makes me think that basically what we should do for our sweep tests for moving and getting our basic things is kind of just nudge ourselves up in the air a little bit anyway, to just kind of start it off. Just push ourselves off from the surface of what we're doing, of where we are, and then do a sweep test. Yeah, and see if we only move ourselves up a small bit, we're still impacting the ground. So it's definitely that we are in the ground for the sweep test. So there we go. We're in the ground. Confirmed. We're in the ground. So why don't we? Let me see. What can we do about that? Well, we can complain about it. Why is floating point math stupid? So what we have to do is we have to prevent ourselves from actually going into the ground in order to do the things. But our overlap test showed us not is in the ground. So the question is, should we just do our sweep test starting positions a little bit higher? I don't really see any issue with that. Like, we started our sweep test a little bit higher in movement direction and all that stuff and moved ourselves over there. We could always just move ourselves off of the surface just to start with, is kind of move up by a small bit. And that would probably like move ourselves up, do a overlap check, then move ourselves. That could probably work. I mean, we pretty much are just like sticking ourselves to the floor anyway, right? Like, what is this? We aren't actually, we're sweeping down. And that's fine. All right, good. Because the other thing is, it's again happening in the middle of a slope, where obviously we have some edge cases with physics, where physics is not as nearly as precise with the sweep tests when colliding with the middle of an object or something that's right in there. So what we want to do is we want to sweep up a little bit. So why don't we just do that? We'll just do f vector cheese position equals like, yeah, we'll just say like start position equals start position. Just start position dot z plus equals like a small number. Let's do our vertical nudge, and let's do an overlap check. Actually, we'll do f vector test nudge position. We'll start position. Test nudge position dot z plus equals. We'll do it with the test nudge position, and if not hit, basically, we're going to set start position to that position. Not dad jokes in chat. Oh god, it's awful. Oh no. Alright, so we'll start off by kind of cheesing our position and just pushing off from the ground very slightly. So you're actually a hoverboard flying over the terrain. Oh god. Oh no. And yeah, that looks like it's working, doesn't it? Except for when we get to this little corner. Wham! Stub our toe. Vertical nudge success. Sweep test movement collided with this. The movement direction is to the left. The impact normal is -1 with floor 49. So The impact normal should be -1? Why are you -1? Like, you wouldn't think it'd be -1. Like, you would assume that it would be... And the impact normal being -1 is just absolutely wrong math. Like, there's no reason for that to be -1. It means we're, again, colliding completely wrong with something. So to do this, do we have to, like, move ourselves... We probably need to move ourselves not only... We probably have to move ourselves by the normal of the surface that we are currently on, and we should get that by casting straight down. So our vertical nudge needs to actually be a little bit more than a vertical nudge. It needs to be this surface normal. Yeah, it's going to be like surface normal dot z times this and surface normal dot y. So we're going to like move ourselves out by the surface normal. And that should let us move over it. The vertical line that's appearing when we're stopping, that's actually that mantling vector coming down from the top. Basically, it's going up and it's trying to cast down and move fat sack up and over the thing. But because the normal is all sorts of jacked up, it's not allowing that to happen. Because if the normal's wrong, like, it's just wrong. Impact normal is again -1. Fuck. Starting position 2, impact normal 2 is again -1. So the direction is straight up because it's straight up. Well, straight up should still work. So we mantle up, and then our direction for step 2 is to the right of a distance of 10, which is fine. And then so we then do step 3 impact and sweep 1 start, works fine. Sweep 2 impact. So we start here, our direction is to the right, and our distance is 20. And we do impact. Now, why do we impact? Well, why is our sweep 2 direction to the right directly? Sweep 2 direction should not be to the right. It should get the normal of the thing that we're trying to move on to. Slate freaking out again. Yeah, Slate's freaking out again. So step 2 direction should be negative normal to collision, and we should be getting the normal to the collision actually from this. So sweep 1 is up and to the left, sweep 2 is up and to the right. I mean, ray 2 is there. Sweep 2 should not be, yeah, it should be sweep 2 direction should be the negative normal to the collision, but we should be getting the normal from step 3 impact normal. So we should be getting the impact normal here, and then we should be using this impact normal for sweep 2. And so sweep 2 direction should not be negative normal to the collision. Like we got this normal to the collision because we're colliding here, and then we move up this way. And we cast this ray down. Yeah, the normal to the collision should be working properly for us, but the problem is that when we sweep over, we're getting stuck because we're actually moving over too far. So it's actually that our mantle float is too big. And as a result, this edge case is failing us. So mantle float should be horizontal nudge. Because what's happening is basically because the floor is at an angle, when we try to jump on top of it and we were tracing farther than we needed to horizontally with our sweep was running into the floor, and as a result of running into the floor, it was saying, oh, you can't get on top of that. So kind of what we need to do is we need to not have quite so much, we need to have our vertical and horizontal nudges be the same pretty much. Oh, interesting. So we might actually want a ray. Yeah. Oh, we'll see if that actually works. definitely colliding because it's going too far. And because that is a slope. So kind of what we want to do is we want to add a little bit more verticality. Is that what we want to do? Basically, it's discovered a way to put this thing on top, but when it does the sweep test 2, it's failing. It's failing the sweep test 2 because it's not sweeping in the correct direction. Well, it's sweeping in the correct direction up to a point, and then it should be sweeping in the other direction for a little bit. Is that what's going on? Like, when we do this, we're moving this direction by a certain amount. When we do our sweep test, we need to move this direction, so we need to move this direction. So in this case, we should be moving up, and then when we do our sweep, we're moving in this direction. Because of that, in this direction, we're sweeping this direction and sweeping to this direction. And then, do we need to nudge this thing out by the normal of the ground that we're going to be on? That's probably the way to do it, is we take the normal from our ray impact and we add a very small amount to our sweep to position start. So it's going to be like F vector outward nudge. That's going to equal our step 3 impact normal times. Let's do our G mantle outward nudge. Let's set it to some kind of big, just to see it work. This is kind of the part of your movement where you get little bits and pieces in there. Little tiny things to make math work properly. So I want to do plus the outward nudge so that sweep to position does that, and this is going to be, we're also going to add in the outward nudge vector to that. And this should basically put us on top of this thing. It'll probably fail the test going back into the left into the little fat sack tunnel because of the outward nudge is going to basically take that normal in the positive direction and do that. And this one actually also might drop us down a little bit. Maybe we don't want the outward nudge to nudge directly by the normal, but by just up and down. We'll see how this works. This might put us actually back below the lip of the next collision block. It's gotta be the most engaging. Most engaging content of all time is watching me screw around with collision boxes until my brain explodes and all that. Then have somebody come in and just be like, "You're doing it all wrong." Be like, "I probably am." Yes, that's exactly what happening is we're getting struck back by the outward nudge. So the outward nudge should only be moving us in the vertical direction, I believe. That's the way to solve this. Not Z, Y needs to be 0. Hmm. It didn't build. Didn't build. No, no, no. It's not detecting the build correctly. I did change the code. There it goes. Alright, well, it's looking like Fat Sack can make it into space here. He can do it, guys. Oh no. He can't make it fully into space. He can just make it up here. And then he can't go any farther. But he can now go back down. Alright, so we have successfully put this in here. And, like he's going super quick. No. Yeah, he can't go all the way up into space. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna get stuck here when we try to go back into the fat sack tunnel. Yeah. So that's because of that nudge. So we're gonna try to fix the tunnel, and we're gonna try to fix the tunnel by editing that little variable. And the reason we're getting a bunch of lag and stuff like that when we're doing some of this is because I'm printing out so much crap to that console that it's just string parsing is incredibly slow. And it's even slower to actually print that text to a console window that resizes and has a scroll bar and all this other crap attached to it. So it's not that the math itself is slow, it's that all the other crap is slow. So we should be able to hit into the... We're not hitting into the tunnel? Alright, yeah. We totally get into the tunnel if we're lucky. And this is like a super ridiculous like tunnel, to be honest. Why can't we get in there all the time? Which collision thing is actually failing us? I just want to check. It's sweep 2 is impacting when it goes. And why exactly is sweep 2 impacting? It's probably impacting Actually, I'm not entirely convinced. Looks like the like I don't see a sweep test being actually done. I see raycast being done. So mantle attempt. Yeah, let's just go to the top. Sweep test collision. Start of mantle attempt 1. The start step 2 start impact normal is negative is 1 in the Z direction. So the impact normal is up. Sweep 1 start worked. Sweep 2 impact. But sweep 1, like ray 1 should be going like right here, and then like it's as though the sweep 2 impact is at that location. Well, let's see if we set our vertical nudge to 0, or outward nudge to 0. and if this is actually our little fix has done anything, or if it's that our horizontal nudge was helping us out in that earlier. Alright, so it's not entirely. Yeah, in fact, the outward nudge just doesn't even matter for this, so it's the swoop test stuff. So let's see what happens if we make this just a little bit taller, if any of this matters. Well, that definitely is wrong. We should be getting up on top of that. Looks like our horizontal nudge is not great enough. Oh man. We're getting there slowly, one tooth at a time. And that's pretty much how a lot of this stuff is, like with getting movement for platformers is all just a bunch of bullshit. No. Step 2 direction is to the left, step 2 distance is 0.3. It should not be 0.3. I'm convinced that this step 2 distance is wrong, because basically we should never be getting to step 3, because the ray trace should just say, like, you hit the wall. But maybe that's a bit of a problem, as we are starting too close to the wall, so we're not actually hitting it with our step 2 trace. Might be. Might be. So the normal to the collision, we are colliding with something which is positive y, which is correct. So our perpendicular to the collision normal should be positive z, which is what we've got. Our height and bounds are proper. So step 1, ray trace is going in the z direction, as it should. Step 2 direction is going to the left. Well, yeah, it's going to the left. This is garbage, but we know it's to the left. The distance is just going to be this very small amount. Now, what was our corner? Our velocity.y is to the left, or at least it should be. So we should be at 11,894. $11,894 is not where our sweep 2 start is. What's our... Yeah, 894 is where we are starting with this guy. And our step is to the left, and the distance is 0.3, which would give us... Well, we're supposed to, but I think what we need to do is actually... Do we need to, like, push ourselves off of the wall a little bit with our start for our raycast? That way we get a better... We don't get screwed up with our math. Because we should basically be, like... Step 2, we're not even tracing step 2, are we? Because at this point, step 2's trace would fail. Step 2 is... It's above us, and it would trace into the wall. So we should probably just add a ray trace for step 2 real quick, and if step 2 fails, then we keep going. So if step 2 impacts something, then we can continue. step 3 start is going to be step 2 start. Plus that step 2 direction and all that. Well, we should at least now get rid of some of these extra sweep tests because we don't need them. So we should at least just see. We shouldn't see any sweep tests. We should just see those rays that are failing into the wall on the trace test. Yeah, I'm starting to get quiet because I've been working on all this crap for way too long today, and you just start to lose it. Alright, so vertical nudge, starting position 2. Alright, so step 2, direction, distance is 0.3, direction is -1. I don't see anything striking something with the step 2 raycast. We've struck an object with our step 2 raycast. Yeah, nothing's getting struck with step 2. Okay, so I guess what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to nudge our step back